week, despite all I know about celebrity news and media and clickbait, I almost broke my thumb clicking on a story that declared Tom Cruise makes rare comments about Nicole Kidman. And I wasn't the only one, because that story appeared in about 1 million places. And yet, when you clicked, surprise, surprise, Cruise had said next to nothing. He'd made a very oblique reference about the time he and Kidman were in London filming Eyes Wide Shut. And that was enough for the breathless headlines to travel around the world, because the whole Tom and Nicole love story and divorce story is still, almost 30 years on, one of the enduring obsessions of Gen X pop culture. It's also 20 years this week since Tom Cruise jumped on a couch on the Oprah Winfrey Show to profess his love for his next wife, Katie Holmes.
You've never had this kind of feeling before, right? No? Obviously not.
I honestly, I haven't. And
Really?
I'm not gonna pretend.
I can see you're not. Do you know Katie once told 17 magazine, yes!
And then their wedding, their baby, their divorce story is another complete obsession. None of the scandal attached to those stories, or his very controversial religious affiliation with Scientology, or the fact that he can be narky, shall we say, with journalists who don't follow his script, have dented his appeal at the box office. This week, Cruise opened probably the last massive movie of his career, maybe one of the last massive movies in a way, the final installment of Mission Impossible. And with his trademark commitment, he's selling the shit out of it. He is on every screen you look at. He's being charming in every format. He's everywhere. He's jumping on a plane. He's jumping on a train. He's waving to all the journos. He is the last great movie star getting bums on seats. What is it with our obsession of Tom Cruise? And why, despite all the scandals that have followed him, does he appear to be Teflon? Mia.
Well, many people say he's the last great movie star and he's the only thing that's saving Hollywood, because he's so passionate about movies and about getting people out to movies and supporting the industry and making sure that the craft of movie making is not lost in this digital era. Even the people that he's really pissed off, like Steven Spielberg, who he worked with in War of the Worlds, and that was the press tour where he imploded and he attacked Brooke Shields for having medication, for having postnatal depression. He attacked Matt Lauer, he jumped on couches, he just started proselytizing about Scientology, and he came across as quite unhinged. And apparently on the set of War of the Worlds, he insisted on having a Scientology tent, and he was really difficult on the set. And basically his whole Scientology jag in that press tour really tanked the movie. So Steven Spielberg apparently hasn't really spoken to him for the last 20 years. But when he bumped into him in some, awards ceremony things last year, he reportedly said, "You've saved us, you've saved the movies," like grudgingly perhaps. But everyone acknowledges that even amongst young people, this guy who's in his 60s, who insists on doing all of his own stunts, is still this sort of icon of Hollywood.
There are a few things about Tom Cruise. The first is that he is an outstanding actor. He is brilliant. If you see him...
Well, he's great at being Tom Cruise, isn't he?
Yeah, but I also think War of the Worlds, Vanilla Sky, like there are these movies that you watch and he is so arresting and mesmerizing as an actor. So he's brilliant at what he does. That's the first thing. The second thing is that he has had run-ins with journalists. That's a really good point, Holly. But some friends that I have in media, I often ask them, friends who interview a lot of celebrities, and I say, who's the most likable, best celebrity interview you've ever done? And so many of them say Tom Cruise. They say
he understands the job, right? He understands what's required.
He is ridiculously charismatic and friendly, and he can turn it on. I also wonder if Scientology as well, and it being powerful, I suppose, it's been subject to a lot of criticism. But as an organisation, it is worth an estimated $2 billion, right? It's incredibly wealthy and it has a lot of resources. And I think that that has helped in either covering up a few things that have happened in Tom Cruise's past, because he is the fact he hasn't been cancelled. Like the Brooke Shields comment sucked. That wasn't a good comment. He did apologise for it to Brooke Shields, she says.
It was part of a whole thing that he had going on at the time. To Mia's point about this era when he was just all the time, instead of talking about the movies, he was telling everyone how to live their lives. Medication was bad. The only people who could save anyone in a disaster were Scientologists of a certain level. You know, psychiatrists are evil, all of this stuff. I feel like he went through that and he learned his lesson to shut the fuck up.
I wonder too if the public has been able to see Scientology as something distinct from Tom Cruise. And by that I mean, I think there's a bit of feeling sorry for him. I reckon that there's a sense that Scientology got its claws into Tom Cruise and he's now become this poster boy. He can't really leave. We know that he doesn't really have a relationship with the child that he had with Katie Holmes. So I wonder if in that way it's like we don't see him as much as like sort of a perpetrator but more as a victim. Do you think that's fair?
Oh my gosh. I don't think of him as a victim at all. I really don't. I see him as a king of the world type always. What I wonder, because I don't know if women love Tom Cruise. We should prosecute this a bit because one of the reasons why he can open movies massively is the appeal is everybody, right? It's mass. It's men, it's women, it's girls, but like you look at something like Top Gun Maverick or Mission Impossible, these are huge movies that are just stuff that people like. You know what I mean? He goes hard on populism. He's stopped telling everyone how to live their lives. But women, when you think about his history, it's definitely ick-worthy, right? There was the silent birth with Katie Holmes. Do you remember that? They were very open about that at the time. She spoke about it. There was the divorce from Kidman where she very much appears to have been muzzled, which is why we'll never really know. There's the questionable relationship with his children. There's the Brooke Shields postnatal depression isn't a thing. These are things that generally women will get an ick from, even if they don't think you're like an abuser or a perpetrator. They'll be like, not my guy, but he seems to be able to ride that out. Do you have a theory on it, Mia?
I don't. I think he's what he is very well controlled. You know, he doesn't play the game in the same way that a lot of celebrities do. Like the fact that no one has really asked about Suri Cruise and his relationship with the child he was so obsessed with. He hired an ultrasound. He bought an ultrasound machine so that when Katie Holmes was pregnant, he could look at Suri 24/7 if he wanted to. It's like that there's a generation of celebrities like Nicole Kidman, ironically, who is called Mother by Gen Z, who just think she's iconic. And they sort of don't hold them to the same, I guess, woke or accountability standards as younger celebrities like maybe Timothée Chalamet or Zendaya or, Jenna Ortega. And I think that's kind of it. Like Tom Cruise is almost like he's so cute. You know what I mean? Like they'd almost think of him as cute,
Controlled
like a granddad.
is an interesting descriptor because Scientology, which is just, I think his marriage to Katie Holmes or Nicole Kidman or whoever it was, David Miscavige was his best man, and David Miscavige is basically the head of Scientology. Now, David's wife, Shelley, has gone missing decades ago, has just gone missing, and people in the Scientology community say they think there are allegations that she was killed or that she's in hiding or that she's locked up, like lots and lots of conspiracy. But there is something really unknowable about what happened there. And I've watched a bunch of documentaries and stuff on Scientology because I find it endlessly fascinating. But part of what they do in their process is you sit there and talk about your past and all of the worst things that you ever did. And you're sort of there's a comparison here to Catholicism in terms of confessing to your sins. The suggestion is that the Church of Scientology then has on record all the worst things you've ever done. And then there are allegations that, you talk about the worst things that you've ever done, which makes you very vulnerable to leaving when public perception and your image is so important to your career. People have come out.
Yeah, but he's all in on Scientology. Like he's essentially the two I see to David Miscavige. He is Scientology royalty, and so are his two children, his first two children with Nicole Kidman, who she hasn't seen for many, many years, reportedly, and is estranged from because they've, sided with Tom in that custody dispute when, she decided that she didn't want to be part of the church. Same with Katie Holmes. So I don't know. I think that I don't think he's trapped. I think that he's part. He's all in. I think
you hit the nail on the head there, Mia, when you said he's held to a different standard, whether it's because of his generation or whether it's because of his success, his phenomenal success in the kind of movies he makes now. Because if you we talk about all the time on this show how on TikTok, a female celebrity just has to look sideways funny at somebody and she's a terrible person. Oh, we can see who you really are. You must be a bad person. We don't know if we want to see your movies anymore. Whereas Tom Cruise has done some literally deeply questionable things and admitted them and spoken openly about them. But it's like crazy old dude, bit of a grandpa, but he's very funny he's very entertaining because he stopped making those serious movies that he made for a while ages ago and just played to his strengths, and he's nailing it.